I was able to get the Lamborghini carcass sold for about $60,000. So it should come as no surprise to hear that a lot of exotic car transactions are financed by parents. So whether or not someone comes in and says that mommy or daddy are buying the car, a lot of times it is a trust fund or a gift or whatever the case may be. But in the case of students, it's usually pretty out there in the open, and someone will walk in and they'll say that their parents have sent them money to buy a car, and this is extremely common in Asian college students. And so periodically we'd have someone wander in the showroom and say, I've got so much money to spend on cars, and it's usually a lot more than you'd expect a college student to be given to buy a car, but that's usually because the parents don't understand how much cars in the US cost. The US is by far the cheapest place in the world to own and buy an exotic car, and due to tariffs and import duties and things like that, in other countries it can be extremely expensive just to buy an Audi A5 or a BMW 5 Series or an E-Class, and so the parents will send them a lot of money and expect them to buy a new car. And they'll usually only tolerate new car purchases. These kids will come in, they'll say, Mom and Dad want me to buy a car, and it has to be new, and I need to spend exactly this, because usually they don't have much money to go with it. And so this girl wanders in, college student at Emory, and she says, I want to buy a $200,000 car today. Terrific. So she wanted a Lamborghini, and at the time in 2013, you could buy a brand new LP550 for about 200 grand out the door with a little bit of a discount to cover the taxes because the MSRPs had come down because a lot of the options were now included. You got free e-gear, free transparent bonnet, free upgraded wheels, some interior trim stuff. The cars were really nice and it was a good deal. So we had a 2013 Grigio Lynx Coupe, and she liked it and it worked, and she and her boyfriend test drove it and were really happy with the car, and so they sent us over the money. No big deal, they take it home, happy with the purchase. I follow up and everything seems to be going well, they're having a good time. But I get a call from them about a year after that. And the boyfriend was on the phone because his English was admittedly a little bit better, and he said they had a problem. They said, Mr. Ed, we've crashed the car. I said, oh no, is everyone all right? He said, yes, we're all fine, but the car is damaged pretty badly. I said, okay, do you need help in dealing with your insurance or an appraisal or something like that? He said, well, that's the problem. See, we left for the holidays to go home to China. And when we did, we emailed our insurance company and said to suspend the coverage. They had responded saying, okay, we can, but we also asked them to put it back on in a month when we came back. And the response they'd gotten was the immediate change is okay, but the change in the future is not something that we allow. And so they had either missed that email or ignored it and gotten back and started driving the car without insurance coverage, and predictably, they crashed. They said that someone had shined a bright light at them and then run them off the road. The circumstances sounded more like someone took a picture of them with a phone with a flash, and then they got startled and ran off the road. But regardless, the car was damaged pretty badly. I saw some pictures of it, and it was kind of banged up on all the corners. I couldn't dig them up now, but it was a bad wreck. It certainly would have been totaled. So they asked me what they could do. And I said, well, you've got really two options. One is to look up security footage and things like that and see if you can find the license plate of the at-fault driver so you can file it with their insurance. But in all likelihood, they're going to have some minimum coverage for minimum budgets, $25,000 damage limit, and you're not going to have enough to even fix your car. I said, the other option is you can sue your own insurance company saying they should have honored your request, and perhaps their errors in emissions insurance or something else can come into effect and they'll pay your claim. So they took a couple days and they tried to go down both of those roads, but they didn't have enough money to mount a lawsuit against their insurance company, and they were getting a lot of pushback there, and they didn't have any luck with security footage. So they said, Mr. Ed, what do we do now? I said, well, we can try to sell the car as it is. It's a clean title, but obviously it's going to require a tremendous amount of money to rebuild it. And then we could just try to trade it for something. They said, well, that's what we want to do. We want to get a new car, but it needs to look more expensive than the Lamborghini to our father if he ever asks what we're driving. And I said, okay, well, we can't get a new car for the 50, 60 grand that this thing might be worth that's going to look more expensive than a Lamborghini. I said, but let me look around for some options and you guys see what you can come up with in cash to put with it, and we'll do the best we can. So I went around looking for options for them, and there weren't that many. You know, we could do some kind of a Mercedes or a Lotus or a Ghibli or something like that, but not much that would really be convincingly better than a Lamborghini. But I did have a car come in on trade. I just sold this guy a McLaren, and he traded in the Aston Martin Vantage that I'd sold him a year prior. And it didn't have that many miles on it. It looked very nice, and I guess they could kind of tell their parents that it might have been a demo or something like that. And I was able to get the Lamborghini carcass sold for about $60,000, which was a great number considering the repair expense that was going to happen. And we got this Aston for 80 grand. It was a Vantage Roadster, so at least it was a convertible and had some nice things to say about it, other than the fact that it would never ever be construed as more valuable than a newer Lamborghini. But I guess the dad believed it. And they came up with about 20, so for 80 grand we sold them this car. And they were just thrilled, really relieved, because they knew they were going to be in some trouble with their father for at least making such a mistake to not have insurance coverage on this car. But they drove off in the car and were very grateful, and I presume enjoyed it. I never really heard much from them again. And that's the kind of thing you come across, is these strange deals that you've got to find ways out of and at least create a good narrative to make the whole thing make sense to all the stakeholders involved.